What is up, YouTube? It's Grinch, and today I've got another tier list video for you. We're going to be looking at every single Lego set that was released based off of the Marvel Avengers movies, so let's get into it. Plain old Grinch! Alright, if you've never seen one of these tier list videos before, this is how it works. We've got S tier, which is epic, the most amazing sets. A tier is above average, B is average, C is below average, and D is the terrible sets, the forgettable sets. A few ground rules before we get started. We are only looking at the boxed sets that were based off of the 4 Avengers movies. We have the Avengers from 2012, Avengers Age of Ultron from 2015, Infinity War from 2018, and then Avengers Endgame from 2019. I did remove the polybags, I did remove any promotional items, I did remove brickheads. We're only looking at the main box sets that represented these movies. Reason being, this list would have been way longer and this video would have been even longer than if we had done this, so I did have to concentrate the list a little bit. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, first up on the list we have Captain America's Avenging Bike, and straight up I think we're starting this one off with a D. It just wasn't very good. You know, it was trying to serve as the purpose of a battle pack, but you got this kind of silly bike that wasn't really in the movie, in the scene. You did get some Chitaris, but you know, they also didn't look the best. You know, when Lego came out with the new Chitari minifigure years later, it was much more accurate looking. These ones look like they've got this sort of weird face mask on. So overall, looking at the list and the items that we have coming up, this one's a D in my book. Next up we have Loki's Cosmic Cube Escape, and I actually really like this set. You know, it's definitely not a D. I'm kind of teetering between a B and a C here. You know, technically this is somewhat movie accurate. If you remove the Iron Man figure and replace them with Nick Fury, I think this would definitely be a B. You know, I know Lego loves to do these vehicle-based sets, but you know, for once we'd actually have a accurate vehicle-based set. I know we've got some with the Quinjets, but you know, this is a pickup truck, and I think that's really cool. It's a cool pickup truck design. It's a little bit oversized, but not too bad compared to what we've gotten before. I think I'm talking myself into a B for this one, and that's where it's gonna have to go. Overall, it's a great set. You get the classic fire extinguisher on the side, of course, but it did come with Hawkeye, Loki, and then Iron Man. Loki came out in a few sets, so nothing special there, and so did Hawkeye, and Iron Man did too. This was kind of the cheapest way you could get Iron Man. Again, definitely missing that Nick Fury character in my opinion. This is borderline for me. Could have gone any way depending on my mood, but for right now I gotta say this is a solid entry. Just comparing it to the other sets that are on this list right now, it's gonna go with the B. Alright, next up we have Hulk's Helicarrier Breakout, and this was the only way that we could get Hulk in the Avengers MCU series. It was a good little build. It's kind of representing that interior of the helicarrier. We've got a nice, cool little jet build too with Hawkeye. Not 100% accurate jet build, but it definitely works, and it definitely represents that jet that he used well. We've got Loki again, and then we got another Thor here. So overall, I'd say that this is a solid set. I think it represents the scene well, and it's not really missing much. I mean, you know, it could have been more expensive, and they could have built up more of the interior of the helicarrier, but I think that just would have driven the price up. You know, you wouldn't have gotten that much more from the set than what, you know, was represented here overall. This one was kind of cool because you had, you know, a full representation of both sides. You had 2 against 2, Thor versus Hulk, or sorry, Thor and Hulk versus Loki and Hawkeye. But overall, you know, it just wasn't anything super special. I think I have to go with the B. The set was lacking. The figure selection was good, just like most of these sets. And then the, you know, just overall build and scene, it was kind of captured. You know, I feel like there was something better that they could have done in this price range. And considering that this was the second most expensive set, you really didn't feel like you got the second most expensive set in the series when you got it. So for me, overall, just a B. Few negatives, few positives, but nothing special. Alright, next up we have the Quinjet Aerial Pursuit, and I really like this Quinjet. You know, I think if the cockpit was better constructed, this set would have been much better. It's a heck of a build too, and it just looks really good in my opinion, especially for 2012. You do get, you know, enough figures, and you get some more Chitauri here to kind of represent that end battle sequence, although the Quinjet wasn't really super involved in that, if at all. So overall, you know, it is a little bit inaccurate. It's a really good attempt, but I'm kind of looking at these other Quinjets that are on the list, and I just was kind of left with more. I think this would have been a better use of that Hulk Helicarrier breakout budget. I think you could have put this one there, maybe try to drop the piece kind of a little bit, and then come up with a, you know, a last even bigger and better build that could have taken this set's place. So for that, I'm just gonna go safe here with the B. Overall, it was a good first attempt at a Quinjet. It definitely, you know, there were some design flaws, but nothing too serious to complain about. You were definitely happy that you got it. It's one that, you know, I have all these sets in my collection, but this is one that I definitely enjoy looking at still to this day. I like looking at all the Quinjets that they've come out with, so for me, it's a B. Next up, we have our first Age of Ultron set, and we've got Iron Man versus Ultron. Yeah, for me, I've got to go with the C on this one. I think it was just a little disappointing, especially with that name. You've got 3 Ultron bots here, but it's not the ultimate Ultron. You know, he only came out in one other set. And so, you know, for calling it Iron Man versus Ultron, you kind of expected maybe a cool little diorama of Sokovia in the background, and then, you know, Iron Man and Ultron, right? It would have been a nice, cheap little set. But you didn't quite get that here. You've got this weird kind of drone that's not really accurate, and then you got 3 of the Ultron Sentries versus Iron Man. Iron Man came out in a ton of sets in the Ultron wave. I think he came out in 5 sets or 4 sets total. So it wasn't difficult to get him. So, you know, it would have been really cool. You know, you did get a unique version of him here, but, you know, just nothing too crazy special. I like the Ultron Sentries, but it just left something to be desired at the end of the day. And next up, we have Avengers versus Hydra Showdown, and for me, this is this one's kind of teetering between a C and a D. I think I'm gonna have to give this one a D because there's another Hydra set on this list that I think just fills this gap better. And honestly, this is kind of the one that of the series of the Ultron movie that I forget about the most. You've got this kind of like speed racer, buggy Hydra vehicle, and then you've got a little Jeep build for the good guys. It did come with Thor and Hawkeye and then an Ultron soldier, but overall just not really movie accurate. There's a better Hydra set in this wave in my opinion. So like I said, this is the set of the Ultron series that I forget about the most. Alright, next up we have our first Hulkbuster entry, and for me, I think I've got to go with the B on this one. You know, it's not the most accurate Hulkbuster, but scale-wise, it's the smallest Hulkbuster. And so for me, you know, they were able to get the most details in that smaller figure, and I really like that about this set. You also got Scarlet Witch, you got Hulk again, and then you did get a cool Ultron minifigure as well. But overall, just a solid Hulkbuster build. Nothing crazy special here that this is bringing to the table, but you certainly were not disappointed in this build. Perfectly average, in my opinion. Alright, next up we have the Avengers Quinjet City Chase, and this was a cool little build. This was definitely an improvement on the Quinjet. You know, I know the source material is technically slightly different with each one of these Quinjet builds as they upgrade them throughout the series, but for me, I'm thinking we might have our first A on the list, simply because this is definitely better than the last Quinjet. It's definitely better than all those other sets. Price wise, there was an argument that it felt a little expensive, but it really wasn't too bad. You did get 5 minifigures, and of course you got the ultimate Ultron figure, which was kind of the shining star of this set. What a cool figure. And then you had a bunch of repeats that we've got in other sets. The Vision at the time, this was the only set that he came out with in. We did get him later. So nothing crazy special there, but you did get a cool little play feature where you could transform or try to transform Ultron into Vision through the truck, and then you had the Quinjet, and the Quinjet had this awesome feature where you could actually drop the motorcycle out of the belly. I loved that feature. I thought that was really, really cool and clever, so I've got to give this one an A. Alright, next up we have our first attack on the Avengers Tower. So this is our first Avengers Tower. This will be the only Avengers Tower in the series. Remember, this is just the MCU-based sets off the 4 Avengers movies. The other Avengers Tower that came out was based off of the Avengers video game that came out more recently. So this is the only Avengers Tower that we have. For that reason, I definitely got to give this an A. I know there were some issues with it. You got 2 cool kind of Iron Man sentries, as well as the original Ultron MK1, and you got another Thor and another Iron Man that we'd seen before. But overall, I think the importance of this build was it was the first Avengers Tower that we got, but it also inspired, I think, a lot of people to build Avengers Towers with those stickers. I know it was stickered, and the one that they made was new, more recently was much better, but I remember seeing just a ton of Avengers Towers mocks after this set came out. And whenever a set can really inspire the community to build like that, it's got to be above average, right? I don't quite think it's good enough to be a legendary set, but it is really, really good, and I think it you know, the price that it has on the aftermarket definitely reflects that. So for me, an A. Alright, and now we have the next Hydra set that I was talking about earlier. I actually really like this set. You know, it's pretty simple, but you don't get a ton of these, you know, play sets, as you can notice with the Avengers movies. And I know there was a vehicle in here, but the vehicle is actually very movie accurate. You know, it looks just like that opening tank that they use. You got a Baron von Strucker, and then of course you got Quicksilver. This is the only set you've got him in, so this set has aged really well on the aftermarket. But I just like the attempt at giving us a little bit of a fortress that you can smash through, and then giving us this cool little kind of tank build that you can also smash through. I like this set a lot. It's definitely not an A, but it definitely goes up here in the B category in my opinion. Alright, and up next on the list I have the Helicarrier, the UCS style Helicarrier. And I know that this set wasn't received very well because it was micro scale when it first came out. Personally, I never understood that. I love this set. I would encourage Lego to do more stuff like this. I think the price felt kind of you know, a little harsh for people, but I mean, if you compare that price to any Star Wars set, you are definitely getting more here. There was a ton of big pieces on this. It had a little bit of interior detail, and man, this thing just looks so good on display. Plus, you got all those awesome nano figures. I know we've gotten a couple Iron Man nano figures since, but you know, we don't have another Captain America. We don't have another Nick Fury or Hawkeye or Avengers Agent micro figures. So overall, this has got to be an S set for me. I think this one has gone, you know, has aged really, really well, exceptionally well. I know it didn't sell well when it initially came out, which, you know, I've kind of find surprising, but overall I really like this set. You know, I have no complaints, and it's the flagship of my collection when I'm looking at my Marvel set. So this is an epic one. This is the one that everybody looks at, right, and says, wow, you know, that's a great set. So for overall, it's an S for me. Alright, so getting into the first of our Infinity War sets, we have the Outrider Dropship Attack. And you know, at the time, I would have given this set a little bit of a higher rating, but since then, we've gotten so many Outriders, and I think I've got to put it in a C. Now, the reason I'm saying that is really this set acted as a nice little battle pack to get Outriders, and it was fine. You got a fine build, you know, you didn't want a bunch of them. However, as time's gone on, we've gotten so many Outriders in the Endgame series that are honestly just better than these original Outriders that we got. I know it's the same torso and face print, but they kind of gave them more accessories and varying accessories to kind of give them this, you know, different look. So, you know, overall, they definitely look more menacing with those various accessories. These ones are fine. I think they fit well, you know, within the group, but they're, you know, definitely, there's just nothing special about them anymore. The Outrider Dropship isn't accurate at all. It's way too small. It should be humongous compared to this. But I get it, right? They can't always capture that in Lego form, and that's fine. I think this set fits a need by having a smaller battle pack like set, but for me the build was more involved than it needed to be to kind of appeal to the battle pack seekers, and then you didn't really need a reason to mass these Outriders anymore. So overall, below average on the mark for me. Alright, so next up we have Thor's Weapon Quest, and I think combining this set with the Benatar that was released this year is definitely the way to go. It just adds a little bit more to the Benatar, and you definitely need to have them both together. But for me, I think I'm going to have to give this set a B. Overall, looking at the set alone, it was fine. It acted as a nice little kind of combo set, but it was just lacking, in the kind of punch, right? It's an attachment vehicle. Really, the only reason you got it was to attach it to the Benatar and make it, kind of the ultimate Benatar between the two. So for me, this set is just kind of, it's great. It's a really well designed set. It attaches so well, but it can't be better than the Benatar. And overall, it's just meh, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Corvus Glade Thresher attack, and this is going to be our first A from Infinity War. I really like this set. Surprisingly, this set was pulled from Lego.com like 6 months earlier than, or to even a year earlier than all of the other sets. So this set is much more rare now, which is kind of interesting. The price has almost doubled, whereas most sets from this series, the price hasn't quite doubled, maybe 50% higher, 40% higher comparing, depending on the set. But this one is more than 100% higher than when it initially came out, and I think there was just a very limited run of these sets. You got a really cool Corvus Glade figure. You got one Outrider, you got another Vision, you got Shuri, and a Black Panther. So the figure selection was great. I really liked the Wakanda wall build. I think they did a really good job of kind of capturing the scene well. It's not perfect, right? This would have had to been a lot bigger, but you can really play through and relive that epic battle with this scene. You've got everything that you need here, and it just kind of captures it well in a Lego-fied way. And I can't say anything bad about this set overall, other than it could have been a little bit more accurate, but we're giving it an A, right? It's not flawless, it's very good. Alright, so next up we have the Hulkbuster Smash Up. And this was another set, that was good. You had a updated Falcon here. We got him in a Civil War set, but his wings were updated and brick built in this set. I didn't really like the brick built wings, to be honest. And the Hulkbuster himself was a little bit bigger than the last one, so it just stood a lot taller. And if you've seen, the Hulkbuster should be just about the same size as the Hulk, so at this point you're kind of getting further and further away from it. Overall, though, I think it was a much, set wise, figure selection wise and all that, it was a little bit of a letdown. I think I've got to go with the C. I was kind of playing between a C and a B here, but looking at that original Hulkbuster, all the figures that you got there, I think that set was better, in my opinion, than this set. So I've got to give this one a C. We're starting to get further and further away from Hulkbuster accuracy. The details were better on this one, don't get me wrong, but it was also a little bit bigger, right? It was about 30-40% bigger than the original Hulkbuster. So overall, not perfect, and maybe even a step back from that original Hulkbuster that we got, and the figure selection was definitely much worse. Alright, so next up we have the UCS Hulkbuster, and I do really like this set. It displays quite well. I like the plaque. I like kind of the little accessories that you get with it. The exclusive Iron Man that it came in with was nice. It's definitely not an S though, and I don't just want to be good to these sets because they're the UCS sets. For me, I think I have to give this set a B. There was definitely some misses. Overall, I might be a little bit higher than some people were on this set. The price to part ratio was not necessarily terrible, but it really was not good at all. And overall, you know, there was just some odd design choices. The shoulders don't quite work well. You could see some of the Technic pieces that were, you know, blue, and it was a little bit distracting, you know, when you've got such a polished front. So overall, I've got to give this one a B. It was a good attempt. I really like it. I display it, but just nothing special. Right? You weren't disappointed that you got it, but you weren't super excited after building it, right? You know, it looks fine on display, it fits a need, but overall, nothing amazing. All right, and next up we have the first edition of the Benatar, or, you know, the set's actually called Thanos Ultimate Battle, and I've got to give this one an A. Overall, you know, it did leave some things to be desired here. You know, attaching it with that Thor's Weapon quest was definitely the way to go, but you did get the Infinity Gauntlet. You got kind of a cool version of Iron Man. I love displaying him just like you see him here in this image. You know, just as a different way to display him in his suit, right? Because he's got the nanotech. You got Gamora and Peter, and you did get Thanos. He wasn't perfectly accurate, right? He had that helmet on, which he really shouldn't have, and they kind of recycled that same helmet. And I think that's just the biggest drawback with this set. So again, a couple flaws, but overall really good build. You had some nice interior space here as well, and like I said, connecting in this with the other set just was so good. But I think what was really cool about this set is you could find this set for like 30% off when it came out. Walmart just always had it for $56. It was $76 originally, or sorry, $69 originally. So, you know, being able to get it at like $14 off was just awesome in my opinion. I mean, you could readily find it available. So, you know, you didn't actually spend much money on this set compared to what you could have, and I just like the set overall because of that. All right, and next up, I think we have our next S tier. We definitely do. We've got the Sanctum Sanctorum Showdown. This set has aged quite well. This is another one of those sets that has doubled in value since its original release, you know, a few years ago. You got 5 minifigures. All were unique except for the Iron Man. So if you wanted to complete, you know, Thanos' children's collection, you needed this set. And I think too, just kind of talking back to that Avengers Tower, right? This was another set that inspired people to build, you know, their own Sanctum Sanctorums, and you saw a lot of Sanctum Sanctorum mocks after the set came out, and also, you know, it just really captures this whole scene quite well in my opinion. It was a great build, you know, it could fold in on itself, it could spread apart. So unlike the Avengers Tower, this build really didn't have any flaws. Sure, it could have been a little bit bigger, but we're talking about $100 set here, right? You spent almost the same amount on this set as you did on the Avengers Tower, and you just got so much more from it. I know the prices aren't perfectly comparable, but they're very similar, and I think the set was just so well received and just overall such a great set. All right, next up we have the first of our Endgame sets, and we have the Captain America Outrider Attack. Yeah, let's just we'll just put this down here right away. Not a very good set. Again, you did get a lot of Outriders, which was nice, but at this point there were so many different ways to get Outriders that it kind of wasn't necessarily necessary to have that battle pack-ish set. I mean, I don't really need to say it, but this motorcycle just looks absolutely ridiculous, especially when you put a figure on it. Just, my goodness, it just does not look right. It's not in the movie for sure, and just overall, just a miss, just kind of a silly set. Not sure what the Lego designer was thinking here. It makes the first Captain America set from the Avengers look way better than this. I can't believe I'm looking at those two sets on the same tier right now, but alas they are. And just overall, this was just such a miss. It's kind of comical how bad that set was, so let's move on. Next up, we have the War Machine Buster. And this set definitely wasn't movie accurate. And again, you know, we get further and further away from this kind of Hulk, you know, size accuracy for Hulk Busters. You know, this at this point is like 2 or 3 times, maybe 3 times the size of a Hulk big fig, so it's just way too big. The one redeeming factor here is that we've gotten so many Hulkbusters. I mean, you can see we're looking at 3 of them on the screen right now. I really liked this set because it was just different. That was the only thing I really liked about it. Otherwise, the minifigure selection is, you know, okay. You got a War Machine and Ant-Man. You know, Neither of them needed to come in this set because this set's not based on anything from the movie. So overall, I was kind of jokingly hovering there with C, but I gotta go D. Just a silly build. The saving grace here for this set, the only reason to really get it is if you like the Hulkbuster and just kind of wanted a cool alternative build that you hadn't seen in Lego before. Alright, next up we have the Iron Man Hall of Armor, and whenever a set inspires 3 other sets, it's got to be epic in my opinion. This set was awesome. I think it just made a great place to display your Iron Man collections, but I don't think it's awesome enough or epic enough to call it an S tier. It just, the Igor build was terrible. That did not work. That should have just straight up, been a big fig, honestly. The build itself was, felt slightly expensive. You got 3 Iron Men in this set. 2 were really cool ones that we hadn't seen before, and then you got a couple thrown Outriders. And at this point, you've seen so many of them that they're not really pulling to this set. I do think that this set is a great set, but I think there's just a few inaccuracies that I can't overlook. If you take away that Igor and the Outriders, you're kind of looking at 3 minifigures, one that we got before, and 450 pieces for $60. That Igor takes up a surprisingly large amount of pieces, and it was great, but I don't think I can get over those other factors I just pointed out and give this an S tier in my opinion. Next up we have the Avengers Ultimate Quinjet, and this was another set that I really liked. Decent-ish minifigure selection. You got some updated Chitauri soldiers. I think I've got to go with an A on this one. Definitely the best Quinjet build that they've come out with in my opinion. Size-wise, playability-wise, it's really cool. It kind of had a cool little, rotary gun that could pull out of the back. The reason I liked that is because you could easily tuck it back in or just take it out. So you didn't really need it, but it did kind of add a little bit of appeal to it. But overall, good, solid Quinjet. Probably the best Quinjet that they've come out with, and definitely the most accurate one to date. Next up we have the Avengers Compound Battle, and for me, knowing that we have another Avengers Compound Battle, I might have to go with a C on this one. I would have called it a B before, but with a better Compound Battle being out, I just can't go any higher than a C here. You got a garage, which was kind of unneeded. You got a nice facade and a decent minifigure selection at the time, but what was really missing was, that Thanos Big Fig was still incorrect. You had a bunch of just random thrown in pieces, that didn't really make sense, right? You had this throw-in little Jeep build, you had a throw-in little helicopter, you had this throw-in little garage, right? This is definitely supposed to be more of a play scale set, and I think what you wanted was a more displayable set, especially at this price range. And the price of this set was $100 for almost 700 pieces. You did get 2 big figs, right? We got to remember that. But overall, it just felt like a lot of money, and you got a little out of it, and it didn't display very well. Next up, we have the Avengers Hulk Helicopter Rescue. I would just straight up give this a D. I'm kind of thinking between a C and a D here, and the reason I'm thinking about it is you do get the Hulk in the Quantum Realm suit, but you also get the Iron Man glove and a really cool rescue. So you get the Iron Man gauntlet, and you get a cool rescue figure. I liked kind of the Chitauri kind of mini, vehicle builds too. I think that one vehicle build is much better build of their speeder than we've ever gotten before, but I mean, let's be real. The whole gimmick with the set was that you're supposed to fly Hulk in on a helicopter and drop him in, because that totally happened in the movie. I would have liked to seen this as maybe a little bit of an expansion to the Endgame final battle set that we just talked about. But it wasn't. We got the silly helicopter that just looks silly. So I think I've got to go with a D. All right, next up we have the Black Panther Dragon Flyer. And this was one of the more recent sets to come out. And this was a really solid set. I'm gonna have to go with an A here. You got an updated Shuri, you got another Black Panther, and another Chitauri. But the Dragon Flyer itself is just very accurate. It's a really accurate build. It looks good on display. You can move the tail back so that it can stand up. You can even kind of use it as a little bit of a display stand, although it knocks over really easily. I wouldn't recommend it. But there's a lot of mobility with the wings that works well. And overall, just a really solid above average build. I mean, this is the stuff that you dream of when you're thinking of a Marvel based vehicle set. Price wise was great. It was 20 bucks. I mean, it's like, you know, everything about this set was above average in my opinion. Alright, next up we have the Avengers Endgame Final Battle, and this is definitely going to go in an A here as well. You know, it was a huge improvement, on that last Endgame battle that we had. I think the pieces were used much better here. They really kind of focused on the facade of the main compound, and they got the really cool Ant-Man van. The figure selection was good, and let's not forget that updated Thanos Big Fig is just perfect. If you don't know, you can actually take the head off of that figure, so it's got kind of an oversized Lego head. And now what I really want him to see is use that same exact mold, but print a Hulkbuster on it. And then you could take Bruce Banner's head, put it in there, give him the hair, and he'd just be perfect for the movie, for the Infinity War movie where he's using the Hulkbuster armor. That would have been excellent in my opinion. That it gives us the ability to do that now. I hope Lego does something like that. You could also do the same thing with that Igor suit, right, where you could put an Iron Man head in there, and then you could put the little helmet over it. I mean, there's just so much possibilities that are coming from this single Big Fig, and I love to see it. But overall, just a much better attempt at the compound battle. It doesn't, though, the one drawback I think it has compared to the other one, and I'll do a full comparison video here soon, but the one drawback that I think that it has is that it doesn't take up as much space. It's definitely, the build itself is a little bit flatter and wider, but it doesn't feel as large compared to the other set. I know it's not as large as the other set. It was cheaper and all that, but you can really feel it. The other building just feels built up so much more compared to this building. This one does feel really flat, but it's an A. I think that's the only drawback here. Overall, really good set. Really happy with it. I definitely like it better than the original attempt overall. Alright, and next up we have our next S tier for sure, the Guardianship. I want to praise this set all day. Let's go. Let's do more of this Lego. This is awesome. Only drawback here is maybe you're missing a couple of the figures, but you do get an updated Peter Quill, which is cool. You got an updated Mantis, an updated Groot. We got another Thor, another Rocket, and we got another Chitauri. But overall, just an awesome build. I'll do a comparison video with this one versus the other Benatar as well. But I mean, what a great building experience. I mean, this thing feels like a ship. So swooshable, so awesome. And just a heck of an upgrade from that first Benatar that we got. I just want to encourage Lego to do more of these. One of the real big callouts to me that I didn't realize was such a big deal at the time was the stand that it came on is actually rotatable. So a lot of the UCS style stands you cannot rotate, but this one you can. You can display this ship in any direction that you want to, and I think that's really cool. Overall, epic set. Want them to do more of this. All right, next up we got kind of a large stack here with our A's. Maybe I'm being too nice, but next up we have the Bro Thor's New Asgard, and this was just a scene that I never thought we'd get from Lego. You got kind of depressed Thor drinking beer, playing video games in his house here. You got your first Korg minifigure, and you got a little Meek too. But just a jam-packed little vignette essentially of his apartment, and I hope we get more of these type of builds in the future, where they're just little vignettes of scenes. Peter Parker's apartment comes to mind as a great way that we could do something like this as a little vignette. There's just so many opportunities here in my opinion. Love this set. What an awesome kind of adult themed set as well. 3 unique minifigures, just overall really good set. Alright, so next up we have a kind of recently released set. We have the Iron Man buildable figure. And for me, I'm going with the C. Kudos to whoever built this. It's really well designed, but personally, I buy Lego to get Lego, not to get an action figure. And so when you have these kind of action figure type builds, they just don't resonate with me. They don't hit home at all. Overall, I'm looking for something more here. It's a great attempt. It's built very, very well, but it's just below average because it's just not something that I really interest me or that I want when I'm thinking about Lego. Alright, next up we have the Sanctuary 2 Endgame battle. I know there was a little bit of disappointment with this set, that it wasn't minifigure scale. I actually don't have that problem. I am still going to give it a C. Overall, it just was a little bit smaller than I'd like to see. I don't think that it has to be huge. I kind of like the idea of this midi scale type of build. I think it'd be cool to get one like this, but maybe for the helicarrier or some other ships. But it doesn't really fit in well with anything. You can't really use it with that Endgame battle. You got a random kind of, minifigure scale Thanos. You got another Captain Marvel, which was fine. You got another Iron Man, which was also fine. But just kind of left a lot to be desired here, in my opinion. I would have loved to see a UCS Sanctuary. I don't know if we'll ever get that. This is a fine replacement, but the build itself is just a little bit boring. Maybe it's just because it's a little bit of a boring ship, but having that larger scale definitely allows you to capture some more of those details that you can't here. Alright, and next up we have the latest addition to this list. We have the Endgame battle. This just came out, I think literally in May of this year, so this is brand new. Kind of comes with a little bit of an updated Meek. We get an updated Valkyrie, and overall I like this. I'm gonna have to give it a B though. You do get one Chitauri, and I love these kind of smaller, cheaper battle packs, but they really don't offer too much. I think there's plenty of ways to get all these minifigures except for the two unique ones, but there's no additional real build here. I would much rather, spend a little bit more and get something, like this Hulkbuster build compared to this one. But overall, not disappointed. You know exactly what you're getting. There's just no reason to get multiple. Nothing crazy special. When you buy these blister packs, you're just buying them for the figures, and that's how it is to me. Alright, so there's our tier list. That was a longer tier list, but we got through it. Love these Marvel sets. Definitely, I think the S tier is right. Let me know what your 3 favorite Marvel sets are in the comments. And of course, like the video if you like it, dislike it if you don't. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.